comes to how we would enforce that, we supported the concept of enforcement at the time and the penalties that are built into that. No one ever likes to use penalties. Those are sort of last resorts. There are lots of opportunities to work with industry, with those that provide the services, those that are in the retail sector. Frankly, I think given the large population that is impacted by disabilities, retailers would be very wise actually to move forward as quickly as they can, because that's a much larger target audience than many retailers access on a daily basis. It only makes a lot of sense. So we're certainly very supportive of moving forward on this as quickly as can be done once the standards are developed. I recognize that it's been slow and certainly needs to be speeded up.
Thank you. The final next response is Vanessa Hamilton from the Liberal Party of Manitoba.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the Manitoba Liberal Party is fully committed to working towards an inclusive province for all Manitobans, and that includes supporting the implementation of the Accessibility for Manitoba's Act. The point I want to make here is the reason why it's being held up is because consultations should have happened before the Act came into place, not after. So like James has said, time and time again, there has been things coming forward, acts, policies without consultations. So that is what's impeding the process. So what happens is going forward, a Manitoba Liberal Party is going to be consulting with you moving forward, because you have the solutions, you have the ideas, and that's our process. Thank you.
And finally, Carrie Irvin-Ross from the NDP.
Thank you very much. And yes, of course, unequivocally, we support the AMA and the implementation as soon as possible. In the legislation, it's outlined by 2023 it would be fully accessible. It is a necessity that this happens across the province. However, as previous speakers have spoken, consultation is essential to make sure that we are able to address what some people have told me. The most important barrier is the attitudinal barrier, and bring people to the table and have the conversation that's necessary. So we have the Manitoba Accessibility Advisory Council that has been working with us on the implementation and the development of the regulations. We were very proud in November to announce the implementation of the customer service. We are now working on the employment standards. We are going to continue to move forward. We know the value of it. We know the importance of removing those barriers and providing the most important opportunities to all Manitobans, and making sure that we have an equitable province, and a province where everyone matters. Thank you.
We'll now give each of our candidates 30 seconds to use as a rebuttal or to deepen their answer if they wish in terms of specific steps to speed up that progress. So we start in the order that we began the answers with James Beddoe for the Green Party.
I just wanted to comment a little bit more on what I was talking about with the commissionaires model. I just wanted to give some other examples. The new Environmental Bill of Rights that this government dropped before the election but did enact use of the commissionaires model. I don't know the Residential Tenancies Board also uses a similar model. The idea being there needs to be an office for people to go if they have complaints. So it's not just about having fines, yes, we need fines and penalties, but also having a place for people to go to launch these complaints on these regulations. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Next to Ian Wishart from the PC Party.
Thank you. Just a brief comment, and it has been referred to. This government does have a history of passing acts and then never getting around to putting regulations in place and moving on those acts. I think this one is far too important to take that risk, and I think that is something that we as a party would be very committed to moving forward as quickly as can be done.
Next to Vanessa Hamilton of the Manitoba Liberal Party.
Thank you. I just stepped down as city councillor in City of Brandon, and I attended the Association of Manitoba Municipalities conference last fall, and there was specific mention about this Accessibilities Act. and how there is very little support for organizations and institutions to bring to implement this act. So, as I want to point out again, is there was a lack of consultation regarding this act, and so we really need to bring everybody together. The Manitoba Liberal Party is committed to doing that.
And our final response from Carrie Irvin-Ross from the NDP.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that actions speak louder than words. A government that introduced this legislation, that has been working alongside with the many partners to implement it, that's what we need to continue to happen. And we need to make sure that we have a government that holds the same values of equity and the rights of people with disabilities. I've been a part of those conversations, and I've heard people say, well, we need funding to do this. I challenge them and I say, it's your responsibility. People have a right to be able to access your public meeting. They have a right to have different communication models being provided to them. We need to make sure that that is happening. Compliance is one of those issues that, yes, we need to keep working on. But what we're going to be doing now is a strong public education to address the attitudinal barriers and work with our partners to develop what the compliance regime would look like.
Thank you, candidates, for responding to our first questions, and our first round is complete. A round of applause. It's time for our second area of discussion and questions. How are we doing? Good? Have some water. How are we doing? Our second question is about ensuring the consistency and quality of care for thousands of Manitobans living with intellectual disabilities. This is a major struggle for community-based agencies across Manitoba. Because of the very low wages they are able to pay their staff. As it stands, disability support staff are among the lowest paid human service workforces in the province. They are paid significantly less than those working in other caring professions like childcare and home care. Not surprisingly, this leads to reported annual turnover rates for frontline staff. Those rates of turnover range from 25% to over 66%. That means that an adult living with an intellectual disability may have as many as 164 different primary care providers in just 10 years. And from ages 18 to 65, they may see up to 770 different staff. This is hardly the recipe for ensuring consistency and quality of care for some of our most vulnerable citizens. Many have suggested the limited wage increase recently made available to some of the workers has done little to solve the problems and may have actually created other problems. And even with a small wage increase for some workers, the jobs simply don't provide a viable career option for most people. To our question, what will your party do to ensure a stable, fairly paid, and qualified workforce providing service to Manitobans with intellectual disabilities? We begin our responses with Ian Wishart from the PC Party of Manitoba.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, we recognize that this has been an ongoing problem for many years. Coming from a rural area, I have repeatedly heard from agencies that provide service to those with disabilities in rural areas that it's just not a living wage, and the turnover rate has been very high, has been referenced to. And certainly the training issues related to that are obvious. I think what we need to do here, and is part of our party's commitment, is to examine all of the spending of government and look at the priorities. Clearly, looking after those with disabilities has not been prioritized in terms of service providers. We recognize that you're at the same level, both with child care workers and some of the education system workers, also some in healthcare as well. And I think it's absolutely important that we review all of the pay scales so that we can get these things lined up in a more appropriate manner in the future. There's several other things that can be done to help individuals put more money back on their kitchen table. Not the least of which, of course, has been the PST. And I would argue strongly that PST has been the increase in PST and the broadening of PST has been most difficult for those on limited and fixed incomes. I think you yourselves recognize that problem, and certainly the workers recognize that problem too. So we have made a commitment in that area as well. Also, personal income tax deductions are an important issue because we are the first ones taxed on the dollar of any province in this country. And so that means that more of your hard-earned dollars leave your hands. They don't stay on the kitchen table. So that's another area that we can certainly help keep more money at home so that those that are working, providing the services that you need, actually get to keep a fair portion of their dollar.
And now Vanessa Hamilton from the Liberal Party.
Thank you. The Manitoba Liberal Party is committed to providing competitive pay and benefits, and it will be part of the reforms for home care and support workers. And that best practice will be followed. And I want to reiterate that we're going to be basing it on consultations with you, with people that are working in the system. So it's very important. If we don't take care of our workers, then they can't take care of what's in front of them. The workers themselves, they go home to families. They have children to take care of. They may even have a spouse that's not well, or they're a caregiver for a parent. We know in today's society that there's many people that are looking after an elderly parent. And so we really do need to take care of the workers because that's the best thing for Manitoba. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to applauding after responses to give our interpreters time as well to move. So that was on me. And for our next response, Carrie Urban Ross from the NDP.
Thank you very much, and we all feel the energy when there's clapping, so we think that we have this opportunity to express our appreciation. I have met many, many dedicated staff across this province who have been working in the group homes in the community and providing the most important care, as people have spoken about, to very vulnerable people and doing a very good job. It is a consistent message that I hear around the frustration of wages and the importance of making sure that there are fair wages that are being provided that help support retention. So we are not having that revolving door, making sure that people can make a career of this. Right now, the employment is primarily has been casual. What we need to do is make sure that this can be full-time work that we can provide for individuals. The $6 million wage enhancement program that we implemented a year and a half ago has seen wages go up. I know that it has not been without its complications. I realize and we take responsibility for the importance of making sure that the wages for the day service also have the same wage enhancement fund, and we are committing to that today. I'm going to continue to work with all of our partners to make sure that we're able to provide the good quality of care. These individuals that I have met in Selkirk, in Winnipeg, and Brandon, and Portage, and in the north, they are companions, friends, champions. They are individuals, men and women, who help support them, individuals through their daily living, as far as recreation, employment, and making sure that they have a beautiful home to live in. So I want to thank all of the workers that are here today and just tell you how much we appreciate your work, and I know that families rely on you as well. Thank you.
James Beddoe is our final response with the Green Party.
Thank you again for the question. I want to start by noting that the Green Party of Manitoba has a bold policy. We want to implement a guaranteed annual income for every Manitoban through tax reform. We can do this within existing tax revenues, and our numbers show it would cut the rates of poverty nearly in half in Manitoba. That's going to have a substantial impact on people living with disabilities. It's also for those that are at EIA, they're going to see about a 25% increase in their income. But here's the sad thing. Some of the workers, and as Ms. Irving Ross noted, our casual workers that are working for these people would also see a benefit from the guaranteed annual income. I know that's going to help them out. I think that's a shame. Because we're not putting enough emphasis, we're not valuing what is significantly important work. As the question noted, having someone continuously with someone with a disability is going to substantially increase the quality of their life. So we do certainly need to move it to full-time work, and we need to make these paid positions be enough to entice and to keep people working with the same person over a period of time, because we're going to see probably a number of large external benefits, some that aren't necessarily as easily recognizable. But if someone who's in need of care has the same loving person with them, I think the outcomes and their ability to find employment and improve their life is going to be improved. And then we're going to see a higher tax-based revenue, a number of side benefits that aren't easy to measure. So I think it's absolutely fundamental that we look for ways to increase funding or grants to the agencies that are employing these people so that we can get their wages up. Our GAI policy will help, and I'll talk more about it, but I think it's a shame that it will help because it shows that we're not valuing the very important work that these people are doing. Thank you.
Our 30-second rebuttal now, starting with the English shirt from the PC party.
Thank you. Certainly, we recognize that it's a very close relationship between the worker and the person with disabilities that they are providing the service to. And what can be done to, in terms of making that more stable, whether it's better training, whether it's better dollars, it's certainly valuable to both members, both those providing the service and to the person with the disability. So it's an important relationship. What can be done to improve that is absolutely essential.
Thank you. And now to Vanessa Hamilton, same order, to have a 30-second rebuttal from the Liberal Party of Manitoba.
As the disability vote matters have pointed out, disability support workers are among the lowest paid human service workers in Manitoba, and we want to make it better. The agencies are terribly underfunded. They have to make up that wage difference. They get some money from the province, but then the agencies themselves have to make up that difference, and that's not right. And we're willing to make it right. Thank you.
Carrier and Ross from the NDP.
As I have spoken earlier, we rely, families rely, individuals rely on the support. And I truly probably don't even appreciate the dependency and the interrelationship that happens between a staff person and a participant. I remember stories of, what happens if I'm in my home and there's a fire and there's nobody there to support me, and the value of having that person to be there to provide life protection. We need to keep having progress when it comes to wages. We need to better support the not-for-profit organizations as well as provide training. I leave you with this question of, when you were promising $500 million of reckless cuts, how are we going to increase wages and how are we going to better support agencies?
And our last response, James Beddoe from the Green Party.
So I wanted to make a quick comment and a contrast with the plan put forward by Mr. Wisher, where he talked about reducing the PST and increasing personal tax exemptions. Now, there is some truth that this would put more money back into the pockets of those that don't have enough. But the simple fact of the matter is it would also put just as much or more money back into the pockets of those that have much more. An example would be if you spend $10,000 of PST goods, you're going to pay $100 in tax. If you spend $50,000, you're going to pay $500 in tax. So the BC's plan is not targeted towards low-income individuals. And that's a much more effective and efficient way to spend our tax dollars. And I want to contrast the Green plan, which is going to cut poverty in half in an efficient way, contrary to the PC plan, which is aimed at benefiting higher income earners that tend to support their party.
And that completes our second question. Thank you, candidates. I also want to remind our candidates that you will have 3 full minutes for closing statements. And because our debate today is formatted to not allow readdressing of other candidates, you can certainly use your 3 minutes at the end to address things that have come up today that you may want to speak to. Let's talk about wait times. Anyone here ever had to wait for anything? We've heard a lot in this campaign about wait times, usually though focused on services like emergency care and hip and knee surgery. These have been given attention, but the provincial government and the regional health authorities have even established systems to measure and report on these between elections. But many people in Manitoba's disability community say that a whole range of essential disability-related services have simply been ignored in these discussions. To give some examples, waiting lists for early intervention services for children with autism now exceed 2 years. It's so long that some of these kids never actually receive supports because they're too old before they reach the top of the list. People with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and other mental health issues have to wait 2 years to access psychologists in the public health system. Some families with adult children with intellectual disabilities are waiting up to 10 years, sometimes even longer, to access residential services. To make things worse, often it is not clear how a person or a family can even access some of those services. Reliable information on waiting lists is not publicly available, and no one seems accountable for system performance. Here's the question. What will your party do to reduce wait times for disability services? And will your party commit to a more transparent and accountable system of measuring and publicly reporting on progress? The first speaker in this round from the Manitoba Liberal Party is Vanessa Hamilton.
Thank you. Healthcare is something that is dear and near to my heart. I've been working in healthcare for almost 20 years, trying to keep people healthy. So that is very important to me personally. And it's important to the Manitoba Liberal Party as well. And we are demonstrating it in our policies that were coming out this election. The Manitoba Liberal Party finds it unacceptable that there is a 2-year waiting list for families with children with autism. And that we will be providing $3 million to reduce that wait time. We're also focusing on mental health because we know that is a challenge and a struggle in our province. And we have a plan to make psychological services available by covering it under Medicare. We're also going to focus on home care to reduce pressures on hospitals and provide better health care outcomes and increase dignity for disabled and seniors. Thank you.
Carrie Urban Ross from the NDP party is next.
2 minutes is barely enough time to scratch the surface of this question. This is an extremely complex question. It is